I am Graham, a 32-year-old software engineer living in Seattle. For 5 years, I was deeply in love with Amanda, believing she was the woman I would spend my life with. I planned 2 proposals, each carefully crafted to be special. Both times, she rejected me. The second rejection hurt more than anything I had ever experienced. But it led to a devastating truth I never saw coming, something that would change everything between us. If you are watching this from somewhere you have experienced heartbreak too, hit like and subscribe. Stay with me as I share how I discovered what love really means after the woman I thought was my forever kept saying, "Not yet." I met Amanda at my college friend Tyler's housewarming party back in 2018. Tyler had just bought his first condo in downtown Seattle and invited practically everyone he knew to celebrate. I almost did not go that night. I had been working overtime on a major software release and was exhausted, but Tyler insisted. That night changed my life. Amanda stood out immediately. She was talking animatedly about a true crime podcast, gesturing with her wine glass, completely absorbed in her conversation. Her auburn hair fell in loose waves around her shoulders, and she had the most genuine laugh I had ever heard. When Tyler introduced us, there was an immediate spark. "Graham, this is Amanda. She works in marketing at my company," Tyler said. "Nice to meet you," I said, immediately feeling tongue-tied. "Graham," she smiled. "Like the cracker, exactly like the cracker," I laughed. My parents claim they just liked the name, but I spent my entire childhood being called Graham Cracker. She laughed, and we ended up talking for hours that night. We discovered we both loved hiking the Pacific Northwest trails, had the same taste in music, and both had a slightly unhealthy obsession with true crime podcasts. By the end of the night, I had her number and a promise for coffee that weekend. Our relationship progressed naturally from there. Coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into weekend hiking trips. Soon, we were spending most of our free time together. I introduced her to my parents when they visited from Portland, 6 months in. She took me home to meet her family in Spokane for Thanksgiving. Everything felt right, comfortable yet exciting. After 2 years of dating, we decided to move in together. We found a 2-bedroom apartment with a view of Lake Union that we both loved. Combining our lives felt seamless. We established routines, divided chores without conflict, and spent evenings cooking together or watching movies on the couch. I remember thinking how lucky I was to have found someone who fit so perfectly into my life. By our 3rd anniversary, I was certain Amanda was the woman I wanted to marry. I had never felt this way about anyone before. The thought of spending my life with her made everything else make sense. My parents had been married for 35 years and still looked at each other with love. I wanted that kind of partnership, that kind of lifetime bond. With Amanda, it seemed possible. I spent weeks planning the perfect proposal. I wanted it to be special, memorable, something we would tell our kids about someday. I knew Amanda loved the beach, so I arranged a weekend trip to Cannon Beach in Oregon. We had visited once before, and she had fallen in love with the iconic Haystack Rock and the expansive shoreline. I planned everything meticulously. I reserved a room at a beachfront hotel with a balcony overlooking the ocean. I arranged for a private sunset dinner on the beach, complete with her favorite wine and a professional photographer hidden nearby to capture the moment. The ring was perfect too, a vintage oval diamond set in rose gold that I had spotted her admiring months earlier when we walked past a jewelry store. The day arrived, and everything was going according to plan. The weather was perfect, unusual for the Pacific Northwest coast. We spent the day exploring the town, and as sunset approached, I suggested a walk on the beach. My heart was pounding as we approached the setup, a small table with candles, wine, and flowers. "What is this?" Amanda asked, surprise evident in her voice. "Just a little something special," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. We sat down, and I poured the wine with shaking hands. We talked as the sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. When the moment felt right, I took a deep breath, reached into my pocket for the ring box, and got down on one knee in the sand. "Amanda, these past 3 years have been the happiest of my life. I cannot imagine my future without you in it. Will you marry me?" I will never forget the look on her face. Instead of joy, I saw panic. Her eyes filled with tears, but not the happy kind I had expected. She covered her mouth with her hand and shook her head slowly. Graham, She paused, tears now streaming down her face. I am not ready. I cannot. I am sorry. In that moment, it felt like the ground had disappeared beneath me. The sounds of the waves and distant seagulls faded away. All I could hear was the thundering of my own heartbeat in my ears. Not ready. I repeated, still on one knee. The open ring box in my hand. I love you, she said quickly. I do. But marriage. Now I need more time. I slowly closed the ring box and stood up, sand sticking to my knee. The photographer I had hired discreetly disappeared. Understanding this was not the moment to capture. The remainder of our romantic dinner went untouched as we walked silently back to our hotel. That night, we talked for hours in our hotel room. Amanda explained that while she loved me, she did not feel ready for marriage. She said she was still figuring out her career path and wanted to be more established before taking such a big step. It hurt, but I tried to understand. We agreed to revisit the conversation when she felt more ready. The drive back to Seattle, the next day, was quiet and uncomfortable. I put the ring in my sock drawer when we got home, telling myself it was just a matter of time. Our relationship seemed to return to normal after a few weeks, though I noticed Amanda would change the subject whenever marriage or future plans came up. I convinced myself it was just timing, not a rejection of me or our relationship. A year passed, and I still believed with absolute certainty that Amanda was the woman I wanted to marry. The first rejection had stung, but I had come to terms with it. I told myself that not everyone moves at the same pace in relationships. Some people need more time, and I was willing to give Amanda all the time she needed. But after 4 years together, living in the same apartment, sharing our lives completely, I thought surely she must be ready now. I decided to plan a second proposal but approach it differently this time. Instead of a grand public gesture, I would make it intimate and personal. I knew her 30th birthday was coming up, and she had been dropping hints about wanting to visit wine country. I planned a weekend trip to Napa Valley, booking a boutique hotel surrounded by vineyards and making reservations at an exclusive restaurant for her birthday dinner. The weeks leading up to the trip, I felt nothing but excitement and certainty. I had the ring resized as it had been slightly too large the first time. I rehearsed what I would say, keeping it simple and from the heart. I told myself that this time would be different. This time she would say yes. The day of her birthday, we toured wineries, sampling different varieties and learning about the winemaking process. Amanda seemed relaxed and happy, her face flushed from the sun and wine. At one point, she squeezed my hand and said, "This is perfect, Graham. Thank you for planning this." That evening, we dressed for dinner. Amanda wore a dark blue dress that made her eyes look even more striking. I wore a suit, the ring box tucked securely in my jacket pocket. The restaurant was everything I had hoped for, intimate and romantic with soft lighting and a view of the vineyards. I had arranged with the staff to bring the ring with dessert. Throughout dinner we talked and laughed, reminiscing about our years together. I felt so connected to her, so certain about us. When the waiter brought out a slice of chocolate cake with "Happy Birthday" written in elegant script, my heart began to race. "Make a wish," I said, as she prepared to blow out the candle. She closed her eyes for a moment, then blew out the flame. The waiter discreetly placed the ring box beside her plate and disappeared. When Amanda noticed the box, her smile faded. She looked at me, then back at the box, and I could see the realization dawning on her face. Before she could speak, I took her hand across the table. "Amanda, I love you more than anything. The past 4 years have shown me that you are the person I want to build a life with. I know you needed time, and I have given you that time. Now I am asking you to take this next step with me. Will you marry me?" The silence that followed seemed to stretch for an eternity. Amanda looked down at our joined hands, then back up at me with tears in her eyes. "Graham," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I do not think marriage is right for us." The words hit me like a physical blow. Not yet, or I need more time, but a clear statement that marriage was not in our future at all. What do you mean? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady despite the restaurant setting. Can we talk about this back at the hotel? She asked, clearly uncomfortable having this conversation in public. I nodded, closed the ring box, and signaled for the check. The ride back to the hotel was excruciating, both of us silent, the weight of unspoken words filling the car. Once in our room, Amanda sat on the edge of the bed while I remained standing, unable to relax. I thought you just needed time, I finally said. It has been a year since I first asked. I know, she replied, looking down at her hands. I thought maybe I would feel differently with time, but I do not. It is not that I do not love you, Graham. I do. But I am not certain that we are compatible long term. Not compatible, I repeated, stunned. We have been together for 4 years. We live together. How can you say we are not compatible? There are things I have been uncertain about for months, she admitted. Things I should have talked to you about. But I did not know how. As she spoke, I realized there were issues we had both been avoiding. Communication problems we had swept under the rug. Different views on having children that we had never fully addressed. Career ambitions that might take us in different directions. Why did not you tell me any of this? I asked, hurt deepening with each revelation. Because I love our life together, she said, tears now falling freely. I did not want to lose what we have. I thought maybe these doubts would go away, but they have not. We talked late into the night, peeling back layers of our relationship to reveal problems I had not wanted to see. By morning, nothing was resolved, but everything had changed. The remainder of our trip was awkward and painful, both of us going through the motions, pretending for the sake of the reservations we could not cancel. When we returned home to Seattle, we tried to slip back into our normal routines, but something fundamental had shifted. I noticed Amanda spending more time with her friends, coming home later from work, being emotionally distant, even when we were in the same room. My attempts to reconnect, to rebuild what we had, seemed to hit a wall. My friend Jake noticed something was wrong when we met for our weekly basketball game. You seem off, man, he said, as we took a water break. Everything okay with Amanda? I found myself telling him everything, the words pouring out once I started. Jake had known me since college and did not hold back his opinion. She rejected you twice, Graham, he said bluntly. Maybe it is time to accept that she does not want the same things you do. Our mutual friend Sophia had a different take when I ran into her at a coffee shop the following week. Relationships go through phases, she said. Amanda might just be dealing with her own stuff right now. Have you tried couples counseling? Their conflicting advice only added to my confusion. But as the weeks passed, I could not shake the feeling that something else was happening, something Amanda was not telling me. She had become protective of her phone, angling it away when I walked into the room. Several times I heard her laughing at messages, but when I asked who they were from, her answers were vague. One evening, while Amanda was in the shower, a text notification lit up her phone on the coffee table. I had never been the type to snoop, but the name that appeared caught my attention, Daniel, followed by a heart emoji. Before I could process what I was seeing, the notification disappeared. But the seed of suspicion had been planted. For days after seeing that text, I struggled with an internal debate about privacy and trust. I had always believed that relationships should be built on trust, that going through someone's private messages was crossing a line. But the heart emoji next to Daniel's name kept flashing in my mind, along with Amanda's recent distant behavior. Who was Daniel? The name sounded familiar. I vaguely recalled Amanda mentioning a new team member at her marketing firm a few months back. Was this the same person? And why would his name have a heart emoji beside it in her contacts? I tried to convince myself there might be an innocent explanation. Maybe Daniel was gay, and they had become close friends. Maybe it was a different Daniel altogether. Maybe the heart was an inside joke of some kind. But these rationalizations felt hollow, especially combined with all the other changes in Amanda's behavior. After nearly a week of this mental torture, I decided I needed the truth, whatever it might be. One evening, when Amanda was home from work and we were both in the living room, I decided to confront her directly. Who is Daniel? I asked, trying to keep my voice casual but feeling my heart race. Amanda's head snapped up from her phone, her expression immediately guarded. He is a colleague. Why is he the reason you have been so distant lately? I pressed, watching her reaction carefully. "What are you talking about?" she said, but her voice had an edge to it, defensive. "Amanda, I saw a text from him on your phone. His name has a heart emoji next to it." Her face flushed, first with surprise, then anger. "You were looking through my phone." "No," I said truthfully. "A notification popped up when your phone was on the table. I could not help but see it." She stood up abruptly, pacing the room. "So now you are spying on me, checking my messages." Her defensive reaction only confirmed my suspicions. If there was nothing to hide, why this response? "I am not spying on you," I said, my own anger rising. "But something is clearly going on. You rejected my proposal twice. You have been distant for months. You are constantly on your phone smiling at messages. I deserve to know the truth." For a moment, Amanda continued to glare at me, then suddenly her expression crumbled. She sank back onto the couch, covering her face with her hands. When she looked up, there were tears in her eyes. "I did not want it to happen," she said quietly. "I did not plan it." My stomach dropped. "What did not you plan? Are you having an affair?" "Not physically," she said quickly. "I have never cheated on you, Graham. Not like that." "Then what?" I demanded, my voice cracking. "Daniel and I have gotten close over the past few months," she admitted. "We started working on a project together, spending a lot of time in meetings. Then it was lunch breaks, then texts about work that turned into texts about life. I did not realize what was happening at first. And now I ask, though I already knew the answer. I have feelings for him," she said, the words hitting me like physical blows. "Feelings I should not have while being with you. I have been trying to sort through it to figure out what it means." "Do you love him?" The question felt like broken glass in my mouth. Amanda was silent for a long moment. "I do not know. Maybe. What I do know is that I have not been in love with you the way I should be, not for a long time, and that is not fair to you." Her words knocked the air from my lungs. "Not in love with me. After 5 years together. After building a life together. How long?" I managed to ask. "How long have you felt this way?" "I have been uncertain for over a year," she admitted. "Since before your first proposal. The realization hit me like a tidal wave. That is why you said no, both times. Not because you were not ready for marriage, but because you were not sure about me." She nodded slowly, tears streaming down her face. "I wanted to be sure. I kept hoping the feelings would come back, that we could recapture what we had at the beginning. You are such a good man, Graham. I did not want to hurt you. So instead, you strung me along for a year." My voice was rising now, pain converting to anger. "Let me believe we had a future when you were already checking out of our relationship." It was not like that, she protested. "I genuinely wanted to make it work. I thought maybe it was just a phase, that the feelings for Daniel would fade. I did not want to throw away 5 years over what might be nothing." "And now, is it nothing?" Amanda looked down at her hands. "No, it is not nothing." In that moment, my world shattered completely. 5 years of my life of planning a future with this woman, all built on an increasingly shaky foundation. All those months of confusion after the first rejection, the pain of the second, now made perfect sense. She had been trying to let go without having to be the one to end things. "Have you slept with him?" I asked, needing to know the full extent. "No," she said firmly. "Never. We have talked. Texted. There was one time we almost kissed after working late, but we stopped. I would never do that to you, Graham. But emotional infidelity is okay." I shot back, my voice thick with hurt. Developing feelings for someone else while living with me, sharing my bed, letting me believe we had a future. The argument that followed was like nothing we had ever experienced in our 5 years together. All the pain, all the deception, all the wasted time exploded between us. Words were said that could never be taken back. Truths that had been hidden for too long came pouring out. Amanda admitted she had been growing apart from me long before Daniel entered the picture. I confessed that part of me had sensed something was wrong, but had been too afraid to acknowledge it. We laid bare all the problems we had ignored, all the ways we had failed to communicate honestly with each other. By the end, we were both emotionally exhausted. I grabbed a bag, threw some clothes in it, and told her I needed space to think. I called Jake from the elevator, asking if I could crash at his place for a few days. He agreed immediately, no questions asked. The next few days were a blur of pain and reflection. I took time off work, unable to focus on coding, while my personal life was imploding. I went over every moment of our relationship in my mind, now seeing warning signs I had previously ignored or rationalized away. The way Amanda had become less physically affectionate over the past year. How she rarely talked about our future anymore. The increasing number of girls' nights and work events that I was not invited to. Jake gave me the space I needed but checked in regularly, making sure I was eating and not just drowning my sorrows in beer. "You deserve someone who is all in man," he told me one evening as we sat on his balcony. "Not someone who keeps one foot out the door." Amanda texted and called repeatedly over those days. Some messages were tearful apologies, others suggestions that maybe we could work through this with couples therapy. Part of me wanted to believe that was possible, that 5 years could not end like this. But another part, a stronger part, knew we had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. After a week at Jake's, I realized I needed to make a decision based on self-respect, not comfort or history. I texted Amanda that I was coming by the apartment to talk. When I walked into our apartment, it felt both familiar and strange, like returning to a place you once lived long ago. Amanda was sitting on the couch, her eyes red from crying, hands clasped tightly in her lap. I sat across from her in the armchair, maintaining the physical distance that now mirrored our emotional one. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice small. "I have missed you." I looked around at the apartment we had shared, the life we had built. Pictures of us on hiking trips, furniture we had picked out together, books with both our names inscribed in them. It was all so comfortable, so known. And yet the woman sitting across from me now felt like a stranger. "I have been doing a lot of thinking," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "About us, about the past 5 years, about where we go from here." "Me too," Amanda said quickly. "Graham, I know I hurt you terribly. I should have been honest sooner. But maybe this is a wake-up call for both of us. We could try counseling work on our communication. People overcome these kinds of issues all the time." I shook my head slowly. "The problem was never the proposals, Amanda. It was not even really about Daniel. It was about honesty. You knew for over a year that you were uncertain about us, but instead of talking to me about it, you kept it inside until someone else came along." "I was afraid," she admitted. "Afraid of hurting you, afraid of throwing away something good. But that is just it," I said. "If you had to hide such a fundamental truth about how you felt, it was not really good, was it? Not in the way it should be." Tears welled up in her eyes again. "So that is it. 5 years over." The finality of the moment hit me hard. This woman had been my partner, my confidante, my future. Ending things would mean stepping into an unknown world, rebuilding my life from the ground up. But staying would mean accepting a foundation of dishonesty, always wondering if she was really there because she wanted to be, or because it was comfortable. "Yes," I said finally, "it is over. Not because you rejected my proposals. Not even because of Daniel. But because we both deserve to be with someone who is certain about us, who chooses us every day without hesitation." The conversation that followed was one of the most difficult of my life. We talked about logistics, about who would move out, how we would divide our shared belongings. We cried together for what we had lost, for the future we had once imagined. There was anger still, but also a strange sort of peace that comes with finally facing the truth. I found a small apartment closer to my office and moved out the following weekend. Jake and a few other friends helped making the process as quick and painless as possible. Amanda and I agreed to minimal contact, giving each other space to heal separately. The first few months were the darkest I had ever experienced. I questioned everything about myself, about my judgment, about my worth as a partner. I threw myself into work, coding late into the night until exhaustion forced me to sleep. I avoided social gatherings, dreading the inevitable questions about where Amanda was, what had happened to us. There were moments when I nearly called her, when the loneliness felt so overwhelming that even a broken relationship seemed better than none at all. But each time, I reminded myself of the truth we had finally acknowledged. We had not been right for each other, not in the way that counts most. The turning point came about 3 months after the breakup. I took a solo hiking trip to Mount Rainier, a trail Amanda and I had done together multiple times. I expected it to be painful, full of memories. Instead, as I reached the summit alone, looking out at the breathtaking view, I felt something shift inside me. A weight lifting, a space opening up. I sat on a rock, took out my water bottle, and let myself really feel everything for the first time since the breakup. The pain, the anger, the loss, but also surprisingly relief. Relief that I was no longer trying to build a life with someone who was not fully committed. Relief that I could now find someone who would love me with the same certainty that I offered. That day marked the beginning of my genuine healing process. I found a therapist who helped me process the experience, who taught me to see the breakup not as a failure, but as a necessary redirection. I moved into a new apartment, one that had no memories of Amanda, and slowly made it my own. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected during my relationship, and developed new hobbies that were just for me. 6 months after the breakup, I ran into Amanda at a coffee shop downtown. She was with Daniel, their hands clasped on the table between them. I felt a pang of something not quite jealousy, but a complex mix of emotions. They saw me at the same moment. Amanda's face registering surprise, and then awkwardness. I approached their table, exchanged brief pleasantries, and was surprised by how little anger I felt. In that moment, I realized I truly wished her well, hoped she had found what she was looking for, even if it was not with me. The encounter lasted less than 5 minutes, but as I walked away, I felt an unexpected sense of closure. As the months passed, I gradually began dating again. Nothing serious at first, just coffee or dinner here and there. I was more cautious now, more attuned to the subtle signs of compatibility or lack thereof. I had learned to value honesty above all else, to ask direct questions about what someone wanted, where they saw themselves in the future. Almost a year after the breakup, I met Zoe at a tech conference in Portland. She was a UX designer, passionate about her work, and refreshingly straightforward. Our connection was different from what I had experienced with Amanda. It was built on a foundation of transparency from the beginning, both of us clear about our past relationships, our current expectations, our hopes for the future. We took things slowly, deliberately checking in regularly about how we were feeling and what we needed. When conflicts arose, we faced them head-on rather than sweeping them under the rug. It was not always easy, but it was always honest. Looking back now, I can see that the rejection of my proposals was actually a gift, painful as it was at the time. It forced a truth to the surface that might otherwise have remained hidden for years longer. It freed both Amanda and me to find connections that were right for us, not just comfortable or convenient. The greatest lesson I learned through all of this was not about love or relationships, but about self-worth. About valuing myself enough to want someone who chooses me completely without reservation or hesitation. About recognizing that rejection, while painful, is sometimes protection from a path that was not meant for you. So, if you are watching this and have experienced something similar, know that the pain does not last forever. That sometimes what feels like an ending is actually a beginning. That you deserve someone who is as certain about you as you are about them. What about you? Have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved because you knew it was the right thing to do, even though it hurt? Share your story in the comments. And if this resonated with you, please like and subscribe so we can continue sharing these life experiences together. Remember, sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the most important growth. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it helps you navigate your own path with courage and self-respect.